will be offered.
One group that's less than impressed with this turn of events are the grade 8s now attending Westside schools. Many of them will have to make new plans.
Where do you want to go to high school?
St. John High.
Where are you going to end up?
Probably Vogue.
Okay, what do you think of that?
It sucks. Crap.
I don't want to go to Vogue.
You don't?
No.
Why not?
I don't like it.
Most students want to attend St. John High or St. Malachy's. Both schools have good reputations, and the young people like the uptown. But many students next year will not have the choice. An additional 200 are expected at Harborview next fall. And Steve, there's an appeal process that really waters this down a fair amount. All kinds of reasons why parents can get their kids into those uptown schools. For instance, if they have brothers and sisters that already go there, if there's a long family tradition, just to name a couple. So it's not cast in stone.
All right, Connell, thanks very much. ATV's Connell Smith in St. John tonight. He says the government of Nova Scotia is gambling with his life. He is a Halifax man who was supposed to go to the hospital today for a heart test. He didn't go to the hospital because of seasonal bed closures and hospital cutbacks. ATV's Star Dobson has his story tonight.
I feel sad. I was always proud to be a Nova Scotian. Born and brought up in Nova Scotia, but some of that pride has deteriorated.
Al Hall failed a heart stress test. Now he's on medication, waiting to undergo a procedure to see if he needs surgery. Al was to be admitted to the Dartmouth General Hospital today, but his tests have been canceled because of the holiday season and a shortage of beds.
The province of Nova Scotia, I feel at this time, this day, are gambling with my life.
Barb Oak Kennedy is with the Dartmouth General Hospital.
It's difficult. You feel a great deal of sympathy for the patients, and yet you wish that it didn't have to happen.
While Mr. Hall's concerns are specific to the Dartmouth General, hospitals all across our region are experiencing the same problems. Christmas closures are typical, but this year in particular, they're causing concern.
We had to close a 20-bed unit permanently last March of 1996, so that certainly is added pressure on us for this Christmas season.
Health Minister Bernie Boudreau says Christmas cutbacks are necessary, but shouldn't cause any serious problems.
I don't believe that anyone with an urgent condition is turned away.
That's little comfort for Al Hull. He wants his problem dealt with before it turns into an emergency situation.
I have one heart and one chance to get it repaired. And I'm blessed with good doctors that'll repair it if need be. And I'd just like to have that chance.
In Halifax, Star Dobson, ATV News.
Premier McKenna has now confirmed what was first reported here on the ATV Evening News last week. New Brunswick is about to be given control of federal job training. Alberta was given a similar deal last week. It means the provinces take over job training responsibilities now handled under the Federal Employment Insurance Program. The Premier says this should help cut out a lot of duplication in the program.
It'll be single-stop shopping for people who are unemployed looking for work. We'll be able to make a lot of administrative efficiencies because we deliver many of the same programs in parallel to the federal government.
It also says the province is better suited to distribute training funds because it has a better handle on job trends. Good news tonight for the people who work here at the broadcast towers of Radio Canada International in Sackville. Canada's foreign broadcast service will not be signing off after all. Foreign Minister Lloyd Axworthy says money will be found to keep RCI on the air from its transmitter site in Sackville. An extensive search has failed to turn up any sign of a woman who walked away from a senior citizens' home last night. Anne Foley has been missing since this time last night, and ATV's Paul Green is here now with the search effort.
It's just about the worst thing that can happen to any nursing home.
Like many staff members at the Miramichi Seniors Home, Margaret Manderson has been up all night. 74-year-old Anne Foley walked away from the home shortly after supper. She's 5'7", slim build with short curly gray hair. She was last seen wearing a light-colored jogging suit and white sneakers. Despite a combination lock on the front door, Mrs. Foley was able to leave.
We are very concerned that possibly she might have left the facility with one of the visitors.
The last anyone at the home saw her was shortly after 6 p.m. 20 minutes later, Mrs. Foley was spotted here, near this road along the Miramichi River. But since then, no one's seen any sign or even a clue of her, and that's made searching for her difficult. Like many others, Search Director Daryl Hebb has been looking non-stop since last night.
When you go for a long period of time and you don't find anything, it's kind of hard to get the morale to a point there that people want to keep going.
Police officers like Corporal Bill Davis have received a number of tips, but nothing has turned up.
We're getting a lot of phone calls, a lot of people stopping by thinking they saw something or somebody that fit that description. So we're checking everything out that we get.
Search and rescue teams haven't given up, but a scaling back of the operation is likely if they don't find something soon. In Miramichi, Paul Green, ATV News.
A Coast Guard helicopter plucked a father and son from their lobster fishing boat this morning as it foundered on the shoals near Lockport, Nova Scotia. The two men radioed for help when their boat ran onto a shoal northwest of Western Head around 6:30. The men couldn't leave the boat because of high seas. The surf was pounding around the shallow waters of the shoal. That made rescue by boats impossible. So a Coast Guard chopper hoisted the men to safety. 32 inmates from the region's maximum security prison in Renews are suing the government of Canada. Their suit claims they became sick because of poor air quality and flooding. The prisoners are represented by Moncton lawyer Stephen Gallagher. They are seeking general damages, including legal costs and interest on any damages the courts might award. An RCMP investigator and a public affairs officer will be the next witnesses at the Jerry Regan preliminary inquiry in Halifax. After 4 days of testimony from a former television producer, the hearing has adjourned until Monday. The former Nova Scotia Premier is accused of 17 sex-related offenses. It has been years in the making, but the dream to place a hotel and convention center in Miramichi is finally a reality. Premier McKenna, also MLA for the area, broke ground at the waterfront site for this complex. This project is welcome news for an area that has been ravaged by a poor economy after the closing of CFB Chatham.
This, I think, will be a real icon of faith for Miramichiers. I think they will see that Phoenix is rising from the ashes and that there is some life here on this side of the river.
Rod Hotels will run the complex. It's expected to be open by the summertime. And still ahead here in your ATV Evening News tonight, we're going to Santa's workshop.
Ontario. All good. Sit her down right here.
It's up north. Not the North Pole, North Sydney. Story coming up later in the ATV Evening News. But next, looks like a victory for small business as the BST debate rages on. New Brunswick's Conservative opposition leader is outraged over the McKenna government's decision to send out brochures promoting the new provincial budget. The government is mailing thousands of these pamphlets and also running radio ads urging New Brunswickers to read about the budget. Bernal Valcourt calls it a questionable practice.
I will ask the government that they send a bill to who should pay it, and that is the Liberal Party of New Brunswick and not the taxpayers of New Brunswick who are being scrooged by this government.
But Finance Minister Edmond Blanchard says the promotional campaign is necessary to inform people about the budget. People in Nova Scotia will soon get to have their say on the blended sales tax. The legislature's Law Amendments Committee will hold public hearings tomorrow and Saturday. About 80 people are scheduled to appear. It marks the first time in recent memory that a committee has met on a weekend to listen to presentations from the general public.
That would be more of a question for Honourable Bill Gillis. Friday is fairly straightforward. It's not unusual for the committee to sit for a whole day like that. The Saturday sitting is as much for the convenience of those who might want to come in at this time of year and have their say as it is about trying to accommodate the members who don't want to drag this out that much longer.
Now, once the tax is approved by the committee, it moves on to third and final reading in the legislature. A group representing retailers says it has hammered out a deal to take some of the bite out of the BST. Store owners in Nova Scotia and New Brunswick have been complaining about the cost of putting the new price tags, which include the tax, on virtually each and every item they sell. But now, there may be some relief for them. ATV's Janet Stewart is in Halifax with more on this story tonight. Janet?
Well, Steve, the head of the Canadian Federation of Independent Business says that the federal government, along with finance ministers from Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, and Newfoundland, agree with the idea of letting store owners put those price tags on shelves rather than on individual items. Now, that may sound like a small difference, but it could save store owners hundreds of dollars. Jennifer Hatfield sells magazines in one of the busiest newsstands in the Maritimes. There are well over 5,000 items in the store at any one time. Jennifer figured out that putting new price stickers on all of them would take her about 60 hours initially, and then another 4 hours every week. She welcomes other options.
We just don't have time. I mean, where are we supposed to find the time and the man hours? They talk of people getting hired because of the sales tax. Yeah, it'll be for 2 weeks to change everything over, and then they'll be laid off again, and we'll be lucky if we can make up the cost of it all.
The pricing option is something Peter O'Brien of the Canadian Federation of Independent Business says he's discussed with government finance ministers. He says they like the idea, but one of them, Nova Scotia's Bill Gillis, says it's not a done deal.
There's further discussions going on about tax and pricing, but there's nothing finalized that I know of.
It's written in soft stone at the moment. I think the cement's hardening very quickly.
If it comes through, this arrangement would save some retailers a lot of time. But the question remains, would their customers buy it? Tom Carroll shops regularly at Jennifer Hatfield's store. He says if the full price isn't marked on the magazine, he won't be happy.
I think it'd be just as easy for them to tag the magazine. Maybe it's going to take them a little bit more, but you know, you got to spend money to make money.
Jennifer says she'll deal with customer complaints as they come. She still likes the idea of not having to reprice everything. In Halifax, Janet Stewart, ATV News.
And still on the subject of the BST, the renegade MP John Nunziata has burned his final bridges with the Liberal Party, accusing the Prime Minister today of lying to the caucus about getting rid of the GST and saying backbenchers vote like trained seals.
Not only did he promise Canadians that he would scrap the GST, he also promised caucus on a number of occasions that he would scrap the GST.
Now, revealing what goes on behind the closed door of a party caucus is forbidden. Nunziata was expelled from the Liberal caucus on Mr. Chrétien's orders because he voted against the last Liberal budget. Mr. Nunziata says he will run as an independent in the next election. New poll of university graduates seems to suggest there are a lot of university-educated waiters and waitresses in the Maritimes. This poll of more than 4,300 graduates from the region's class of '95 found a great deal of unemployment at the bachelor's degree level. The poll says the most common jobs for those grads are in retail sales and the food and beverage business. Graduates with a master's degree or a professional degree were most likely to land jobs in their field. The poll also says New Brunswick graduates have the highest jobless rate, 18.5%. PEI's rate is 14%. Nova Scotia has the lowest rate at 12.5%. The poll was taken in June by Baseline, market research of Fredericton. For the first time in 45 years, the Government of Canada has today overhauled the Indian Act. But the politicians say bands will be able to choose whether to adopt these new rules or continue under the old Act. Indian Affairs Minister Ron Irwin calls it a necessary first step for bands that want to break away from the control of the Indian Affairs Department. But Assembly of First Nations Chief Mercury complains there was no consultation with the First Peoples.
It's still a cage. It's just a new cage. So why would our people who don't like the old cage want to rush into this new cage? It's not going to happen. And the minister should just simply withdraw the statute and save us all a lot of energy.
The Indian Affairs Minister says it will be years before the government eliminates the Indian Act as recommended by the recent Royal Commission on Aboriginal Peoples. Frank Sinatra's publicist is denying a report that Old Blue Eyes is in failing health. The New York Post has reported that Mr. Sinatra is in very poor condition and will never be able to sing again. The newspaper claims he suffered a stroke while in the hospital recently. But Mr. Sinatra's spokesman, Susan Reynolds, says Blue Eyes told her he's okay. He's 81 today, and he plans to celebrate his birthday with family and friends at a party at his home in Beverly Hills. Next on the ATV Evening News, making a big difference in your community.
There's something here, Mary. Just have to wipe this off. Look, it's beautiful.
Now these Maritimers have found the spirit of the season. We're visiting Santa's workshop when we come back. And now a toy factory like no other. It all began 3 years ago. A group of women lost their jobs in the fishery, and they decided they wanted to do something, and something important and special for their community. So they began collecting and fixing donations for needy children at Christmas time. Their only real reward is putting a smile on a child's face. ATV's Peter Ryan tonight with Gifts from the Heart.
From the outside, it's just an old, plain-looking building. But tucked in the basement is what Christmas is all about.
Lady brought those in before. They're handy. Slow down.
They call it Santa's Workshop. For Sharon Baczynski, Jesse Johnson, and Marie King and friends, it's the highlight of their holiday season. For the past 3 years, they've been volunteering, sorting and fixing toys and other donations.
It's Santa's Workshop for sure, because there's a lot of love between people that bring things into us, between the people that work here. We laugh, we carry on, and we work hard. This year we're getting a lot of new things which we love because we put them right in orders. We don't have to do any work with them.
Okay, Sharon, here's the box from Ontario.
All good. Sit her down right here. God love them. Oh, look at the dogs. Those are the ones they sent us last year. Now, they stopped a lot of people this year. They took them all off their list, and he called me the other night, and he left us on. Now, that's unbelievable. We're down here, and they're up there, and we still receive things from them. We have dinkies. Everything is in here. Last year, we did 1,000 children, and we're hoping to do over that this year. It's not the numbers. We can help one child and be happy. There's some toys for the small ones, Mary, babies.
And Santa's helpers are more than happy to do whatever it takes, even if it means some elbow grease, washing and fixing up toys.
I'll try it. Yep, got it going.
And while 500 stockings are lovingly filled, the gift list is being checked to make sure no one is missed.
We have a 5-year-old boy, Kay. Oh, some things came in new this morning. That's great.
The volunteers are overwhelmed by the community's generosity, but it was a letter from a child that put everything in perspective.
If a child of 3 years old realizes what we're doing, that's something special.
In North Sydney, Peter Ryan, ATV News.
Coming next to the ATV Evening News tonight, meteorologist Steve Weigel with our weather forecast after a peek at somebody else who's doing what they can to brighten up the holiday season. And time now for the Maritime Weather Forecast here with meteorologist Steve Weigel. Something very weird going to happen, and that is that weather is going to come in from the east.
That's right.
Weather that's already been here, sort of coming back, you know.
We get twice the amount of rain, and in fact the rain has already started to push into Cape Breton and the northern mainland of Nova Scotia, and it's going to switch over to flurries and light snow overnight as temperatures drop below the freezing mark. So messy road conditions. And we were talking at the commercial about our weekend forecast. Doesn't look as bad as it did yesterday.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah, I'll talk about that too. Let's take a look first at the satellite loop up over North America the last 24 hours. Very interesting situation going on here with a ridge of high pressure up over Quebec. And I expect that that'll block most of the moisture that is moving up the eastern seaboard for the weekend. And a low pressure system which is starting to develop in the Ohio River Valley is going to push towards New England, but with a big ridge of high pressure of Arctic air over our region, looking at most of the moisture staying well to our south. And that's good news for us. In fact, there's even some sunshine in our weekend forecast. Here's a look at the current systems map with that low starting to develop, picking up some Gulf moisture, lots of cold air flooding in behind the system, and that's shown in the jet stream, the upper air pattern, way down in the Gulf of Mexico and cutting through northern Florida right now. So lots of cold air with this system, lots of warm, moist air pushing in the Gulf and in the Gulf of Mexico and also the Gulf Stream. And here's a close-up of the Maritimes with that very interesting weather system. We don't see this very often. A line of cloud right here pushing from east to west. And some of the shower activity and flurry activity is starting to develop through Cape Breton and Prince Edward Island and the eastern shore of Nova Scotia right now. This will continue to track across the Maritimes tonight and tomorrow, so lingering showers and flurries are in our forecast. Overnight, temperatures at the freezing mark are just slightly below